Okay everybody, welcome to the next part of Let's Make some Pathfinders in the Let's Make a Model series. Pretty much, they've been grayed, including the gun drone, who looks completely gray because I wanted to make sure I got the gray in all the areas well enough. But that's okay, once I touch him up and add the color parts to him, he'll look real nice. So what did we do here? Well, pretty much what I did is I took Codex Gray and I did a bit of overbrushing slash dry brushing slash wet dry brushing. Essentially, I dry brushed best I could successively over the models to make sure I got the cloth done. And as you can see it on this guy, this includes the cowl under his helmet and his legs and whatnot. And it gives kind of a nice dirty looking, not so much dirty like dirt, I don't know if that made any sense, like worn type of cloth type of armor, and which I like the look of, which is why I went with it. It also helps because dry brushing does not have a lot of paint on the brush, so it does not gunk up detail if you make it a little dirty like I did. And you can still see some pewter parts shining through because I didn't work on that part yet. And over here is a couple little pewter bits that I'll touch up with some Codex Gray, and we'll be okay. I touch them up as I go along because if I try touching them up, I'm gonna miss, like just to touch them up in their own step, I'm gonna miss them, because that's how I roll. If you don't like that look, you can of course just paint it like a standard painting, like a standard model painting. For example, this guy's cloth on the bottom and on the top was not dry brushed at all. He was painted normally, like I would paint any normal model, and it looks fine. I just went with this dry brushing technique for these guys, being that they're pewter and mostly one-piece model. It was easier and faster to assembly line them like this by just dry brushing the cloth pieces on successively. Same thing with the guns. Now don't worry about getting it dirty like I did here. I did it sloppily. I did that on purpose because I want to make sure I got the cloth parts, and anything else I can touch up with Chaos Black or the actual color it's supposed to be. So that's these guys. I don't know where the Shazwi model went, but he's over there. It's okay. You get him the idea. Basically, the gray is done, except for touching up if you make mistakes here and there, or as you go along. The next step will be the red. Now, I'm going to end up with the end result of Scab Red because I'm copying Farsight's color scheme that he has in the Codex, which I did in my Farsight, and which I'm doing for my Tau, which you've seen. I don't know if this if this is Fluff approved or whatnot. He is from the Virala, or was from the Virala Sept, I believe, so if you want to go with those color schemes for your army led by Ashova, it should work. But I just went with his specific, so that's why they're going to look like this. And pretty much that involves Scab Red. Now, sometimes I may put Mecra Red underneath it, sometimes I won't. Like on the blackened part of the models, like on this guy's helmet, I believe, up there, I may Mecra Red it because Scab Red does look a little washed, or a little like little translucent, and looks a little dark on just black. So I may do that for that part, but on this guy, he's gonna have some Scab Red on him too, since he's mostly all gray. The Scab Red should appear fine on the gray. But that's gonna be the next step. Mecra Red for certain areas, and it's pretty much Scab Red overall. It's gonna be a clean paint job, so it's not gonna make it a mess, hopefully. You know. So that means I'm going to take a fine detail brush and paint the armor up, just the armor parts and stuff like that. Now I'm going to have to look at some Pathfinder models to see exactly where all the armor is, just to make sure what I mistake for cloth is not, which is actually armor. I don't want to do that. So we'll see as I go. But essentially it's going to be red, the boots are going to be red, the armor is going to be red, parts of the guns are going to be red, and the gun drone is going to have some red parts. Speaking of the fact that he's all gray and doesn't need a Mecra Red undercoat, is base coating colors. Now, some people swear by Chaos White. Chaos White, Skull White. Wow. Other people swear by Chaos Black. I do Chaos Black because that's how I was learned to paint models, and with few exceptions, definitely being the exception for the most part, I do a Chaos Black, but then I go Skull White. Regardless of the fact that Skull White is not the best to paint, because it's well, not the best, the easiest thing to undercoat with, because it is so thin and whatnot. Some people go with other colors. You know, they have the Army Painter base coating colors out there. They're not black or white. They have those, but there's also metallic, or grays, or reds, or greens, and base coating does not have to be just black. You don't even need to use the Chaos Black undercoat or Skull White undercoat at all. I've seen people who base paint and base coat and undercoat gray for everything. Certainly, as you see here, I mean, if this was just gray without the black, which it kind of is now, that can work for a decent amount of color schemes. I've seen people who undercoat brown, or reds, depending on, it all depends on the armor you're playing and the color scheme you're going for. So if you're not having luck with the Skull White, or you don't like how it takes up successive layers of Skull White, or if you don't like having a thin undercoat to which you apply washes to, or you don't want to spray base the white, or you just don't like the black because it makes stuff too dark, experiment. One way to experiment cheaply is to take extra pieces of sprue and paint them as if you painted a model. You know, do an undercoat of that and then paint the color over it, see how it looks. Yeah, it's just a sprue, but it's the plastic. It's essentially painting a model, except it's not the actual pieces you want. It's just a throwaway piece of sprue. But if it looks okay in the sprue, it'll look fine in the plastic model, and should look fine in the pewter as well. So yeah, that's pretty much a little ramble there, just because I remembered when I was looking at this guy, he's all gray. But other than that, next step is Mechrite Red, or to Scab Red, essentially Scab Red for parts that don't need the Mechrite Red. You get the idea. For reds, if you want a truly strong red, sometimes you do a white undercoat for like Blood Red, or you do Mechrite Red and then put the red over it to help the red shine, because red is one of those colors that is a little weak when you put it on by itself over a black undercoat. You do a couple of coats, and it can look a little bit too dark. So yeah, that's going to be the next step. I don't know when that's going to be put up, because I paint slowly and I'm easily distracted by stuff, including some games that I want to play, so we'll see how it goes. But essentially, when I do come back to this, or when we do the next video, they'll be completely red and ready for their final detail stuff. But we'll see that when we get to it. So until next time, guys, take it easy.